All right, in this video, I'm going to try to do a relatively quick overview of the Claude desktop app. So most everything that we're doing now that we're using Claude to actually go out and do real work for us and bring us back the finished product, all of that needs to happen in a desktop app version. You can no longer just use the Claude.ai website version. So this is the actual desktop version that I have set up and running right here. There are three core tabs across the top. Let's just briefly talk about what those are. Chat, if you've used Claude at all before the desktop app, then you've used the chat mode, and that's where you simply have chat conversations with Claude about whatever you wanted. Maybe you asked him to write a marketing brief for you, or you asked him to write a document that you needed for work, or help writing an email, whatever that was. Those are usually individual chat sessions. All of those chat sessions that you have from your regular chat account, the website version of Claude, those are all still here inside the desktop app. So it is still talking to that same account, and those are all pulled into here. Similarly, all your projects that you may have set up inside your Claude chat, those are all still there, along with all of the documents. If you created or imported or set up knowledge documents to help inform those chat sessions, those are all still there. So all of your chat, all of your history, everything you've done in the Claude.ai website, that's all still here. Claude Chat is still extremely powerful. I used Claude Chat to create multiple actual software apps, some pretty powerful apps. So this is our content studio. I was on this one here. Content Studio with Claude Chat, he and I built software using GitHub and Vercel as the app hosting. It gives me terminal commands that I can use. So I would tell him what updates I want to make on the software. He would update the software in the code and then give me terminal commands that I would use to upload those new updates to GitHub and then into Vercel to update the software app. You could do some really powerful things still in Claude Chat. So I don't want to downplay that. However, most everything that we're going to be doing is going to be done inside the Cowork tab. So I'm going to come back and go through Cowork tab in just a second. I do want to mention there's Claude Code, which is for mostly for programmers and more technical people. Claude Code is extremely powerful. It's actually a little bit more powerful in its raw form even than Cowork, because it can do a few more connections using some coding tools and software that you're not typically using inside Cowork. Although I will say this, Cowork is essentially the same thing as Claude Code. It's just wrapped in a better interface that makes it simpler for non-technical people just to have a chat session. But you can still have normal chat sessions in Claude Code as well. You don't have to like put code into Claude Code. You just talk to him in English in Claude Code and tell him what you want him to go and do, and he will go and do that and create. Usually, it's related to writing software or updating software of some type. So it's there. You may use it. I'm not really teaching or telling people how to use it. Everything we're going to do is inside Cowork. So let's take a quick peek around Cowork. When you first come into Cowork, you're essentially on this new task tab. Right now it says, let's knock something off your list. By the time you're watching this video, it might say something different. The one thing I will point out, and I point out through all the rest of the videos that we do, is regarding our SmallBiz OS system, which is a tool that you will install to help Claude create subfolders for each of the skills and plugins that you're going to install. And in each one of those subfolders on your computer, subfolders, it's going to have special memory files that teach Claude how you like to use that specific tool. And if you make updates to it or you want your reports generated in a different way, those memory files will get updated to help it get smarter and smarter. If you don't use the Small Biz OS system, you can still install all the skills and plugins and they will all work fine. The problem is they just run the way they're programmed to run. And if you teach it or update it, or you say, I don't like this report this way, I want you to do it that way. There's no built-in memory systems. Most people think I'm talking to an AI. If I redirect it and tell it to do a different report, it should remember that. Well, it doesn't by default. That's why we use the Small Biz OS system. So my point that I was trying to get to is anytime you're going to come in here and do a specific task in Cowork, make sure you switch to the folder that you want to use. Mine defaults to Small Biz OS, but that's just the parent folder. So if I wanted to do prospect research in this session, I would want to make sure that I switch first into the project. I need to uncheck Small Biz OS. This is the other thing. I don't like this, that it currently allows you to check multiple folders to work inside multiple folders simultaneously. There is a use case for that, but not for most average people. So just make sure when you go to use or to run a new task that you switch into the folder that you set up specifically for that task. Okay, that's all I wanted to say there. It will remember the last several things that you have done or what's currently active, etc. Down here, you will see, just like you see with Claude AI chat mode, recent chats that we've had inside Cowork here. All right, let's go up here to the toolbars. So we're on new task right now. If I wanted to do prospect research, I would switch into that folder and I would say, here's a new prospect that I've got a call with tomorrow. Please do the research on this person. It'll go out, research them, generate a report, bring that report back to you. It's awesome. All right, search just is what it says. It lets you search through all your chat sessions here and find something that you're trying to find. Scheduled are those tasks that are scheduled to run at a certain time window. So my email runs every 3 hours and checks a couple of my email inboxes, sorts them into urgency levels, and brings anything to my attention that needs acted on right away. That's my email triage. My morning brief, one of the coolest things that Claude does, it goes out, pulls all kinds of information that I've told it specific for me that I want them to grab. Articles on my industry, the weather report for the day, upcoming appointments for today or tomorrow, all kinds of cool things that are in that. But it runs every morning at 6 a.m. It delivers that morning brief to a file folder where I can go and easily find it. It also sends it to me on Slack, so I can just read it on my Slack channel if I want. And then I have it also creating a daily journal entry or preparing that day's journal entry in our Notion app. Notion is kind of the business brain. It's also a key part of what we do, so that we're not just operating in Claude, we're storing all that information in our business brain, so our business brain gets smarter and smarter. That's the thing that big companies have that small companies don't have. Big companies have a server farm somewhere with a whole bunch of nerdy IT guys running around plugging wires into computers, right? In a cold room somewhere. Small businesses don't have that benefit. So we have created a system where Claude will talk to and communicate with your business brain, which is just the Notion app. It's very inexpensive for you to own and run. You can run it for free if you're a single operator, but if you've got staff, it can house all of your standard operating procedures, your new employee documents. It can be like the brain for employees to go ask questions about the work that they do. Where do I find this resource or that tool, etc. So anyhow, Notion's a very cool tool. These are scheduled tasks. If I want to find if something happened, like this morning's brief didn't run properly, or I can't find it in the folder, something happened, I would click on that. You see what I did? I'm on scheduled tasks. I'm going to click on the morning brief, and then I can see all the times that this task has run. So I can see this morning at 6:14 a.m. it ran. I can click on that. Now you see I have a chat window. So I have my list here of all, this is just the same list of all the previous runs. Here are the tools that it's using each time it runs that. Here's just a summary of, okay, everything came out right. Here's where it was delivered. Here's the story log that gets updated. I want it to keep track of the stories it's giving me in my morning brief, so it doesn't give me the same stories every day. Anyhow, there we go. That's what ran. But if there was a problem, I could come here to this chat window and say, hey, this morning's chat didn't come, or this morning's morning brief didn't come out right. There was a problem, X, Y, and Z. Please look into that and figure out what happened and fix it. You could just tell it that and it will figure it out and fix it. And it'll ask you, do you want me to go ahead and generate a new one? And you can tell it yes. But this is where you would come to chat with that session if something happened and it didn't come out right. So that's always important to remember. So that's on the scheduled tab here. Under projects, this is similar to the project you have in chat mode. As a matter of fact, You can even use the same projects that are in chat mode, but these are specific projects to the Cowork projects that we're working on right now. Dispatch, I have mine set up. If you don't have yours set up yet, it'll have an opportunity to scan a barcode, a QR code here. This is for texting from your phone or tablet into your desktop app. That's really what this is. So if I'm laying in bed at night and I remember, oh, I need a report on a client tomorrow morning by 10 a.m., I can get on my phone, open the Claude app on my phone, go to the dispatch, and text in a message. So, like, here's what happened the other night. I texted into the Claude app, hey, add a new urgent task for tomorrow to borrow my friend's garden tiller for the weekend. Please send me a reminder on my Slack channel around 2 p.m. And it did that. So think of that as your ability to text commands or requests into Claude directly. That's what dispatch is. All right, ideas. Some really cool ideas on helping you get your head around. These are all the things Claude Cowork can do for you. I already have mine creating my morning brief, but here's another kind of generic version of it. I would recommend you use ours because it's more customized and personalized. It's going to ask you questions. It's going to actually do an interview the first time you run it to find out, hey, would you like us to check your calendar? Would you like us to check your email? Would you like us to check the weather? It goes through all those things, what kind of information you might want. At any rate, there's a lot of ideas here, and you can click on any one of these, and it will begin a chat session with a pre programmed prompt. I want to build a dashboard. Give me room to share what I need, the data source, the metrics, examples of dashboards that I like. So I didn't even click anything or tell it anything. That generated a prompt and it started up and ready to go. It's now asking me questions. Okay, tell me what you want in your dashboard. I'm not going to continue this, but I think you get the idea. There's under the ideas, there's some really cool things you can look into. Customize. This is where you're going to be installing the plugins and the skills that we give you. So, really important section here. I'm going to start actually with the connectors. Connectors is what it sounds like. This is how you connect your Claude Cowork to outside apps. So I have mine connected to Gmail, to Calendar, to Google Drive, to our Notion, to my Slack channel. I have some custom connections that do a little bit more powerful things, like I've connected it to our Facebook ads. So we can go pull my client campaigns and every morning generate a report for me on our Facebook ads. I have that running on a different computer. It's why you didn't see it in these scheduled tasks here. That's on a dedicated computer that just runs 24/7. Worth mentioning, now that I've said that, if you've scheduled a task like my 6 a.m. morning brief, if this computer is not turned on at 6 a.m., and this is my work computer, so it's typically not turned on yet at 6 a.m., it can't run. It will run as soon as the computer turns on, usually. That's why I have a dedicated computer that I keep running the whole time. I just turn the screen off, but it can run those tasks like that every morning without fail. And then it just delivers it to a folder that's shared into this computer. Anyhow, that's all part of what we do, helping you set up like coherent systems. At any rate, these are slightly more powerful connectors. All right, let's go to plugins. Well, let's talk about skills. Skills are kind of the next level. Skills are what it sounds like. These are the cool things that your computer can do, that Claude can do for you. Uh, a skill doesn't mean it's a one trick pony. For example, here's a perfect example. This is our GSM SEO audit. This is a deep dive audit on SEO as well as GEO, generative engine optimization, which is fancy term for AI optimization. It goes out, it does all kinds of research. It literally opens an app, a Screaming Frog app. If you've ever used SEO, you might know Screaming Frog. It's just a funny name for an app that does an SEO audit. So it'll open apps on my computer and run an SEO audit in Screaming Frog and pull that in. It does online research of all different shapes and sizes, different websites, and it generates a very detailed report and analysis. It'll open the client's website. It does, all kinds of checks and finding information, puts it into a very detailed, like a 20-page report. Those are a lot of things that are running inside this one skill. So a skill can be very powerful and do a lot of things within that one skill. A plugin is simply a combination of skills that I've added together. So whereas the SEO audit's kind of comprehensive unto itself. I have like my morning brief, which uses a variety of tools. It uses obviously connectors. It connects to my Gmail, it connects to my calendar, it's connecting to our Google Drive, it's connecting to other external tools to generate those reports, it connects to the websites so we can research topics in our industry, it generates a report. So a plugin is simply a combination of several skills, usually bundled together. So I may give you a skill file to install, or I may give you a plugin to install. If you need to install a skill, you're going to come into Customize Skills. You're going to come up here where this plus sign is and create a skill by uploading a skill. That'll give you a place. I will give you a zip file for the skill or the plugin. You just drag and drop it in here. Doesn't matter if you take a plugin and you drop it in here. Claude is smart enough to know what it's looking at, figure it out, and sort it out and make it happen. Likewise, if you think I've given you a plugin and you come here to plugins and you're going to create a plugin by uploading one, you do the same thing. It gives you a box here. If you just drag the zip file in, it figures out, okay, here's what you've given me. I'm going to install it wherever it needs to go. Okay. You don't have to worry about that. It's one of the joys of AIs is it's smart. It understands. So all of the skills that you have installed will show up here. It's worth noting that all of the files that run this skill are written in plain English. I can literally browse through these files and see exactly what this skill is doing. The skill MD is usually kind of the programming of the skill, but as you can see, all of it is written in plain English. This file, skill MD, actually exists on your computer somewhere. You should be able to go and find it once you've installed this skill, especially if you use our SmallBiz OS system. You'll know exactly where to go and find them. But you could just literally edit this text document and you would have updated the software, the skill that runs your tool. Now, it may have other steps as well or other pieces to it. So the skill was getting a little too fat as a file. So it said, I need to break out some of these other pieces and put them into a separate MD document, which is markdown format, which is just a version of a text document. Do not edit markdown documents with Word, with Microsoft Word. Word embeds like hidden characters and code that you can't see, but computers can see it. So if you tried to edit this MD document with Microsoft Word, you will break it and Claude will no longer be able to read it. So keep that in mind. Okay, so we've talked about skills, we've talked about connectors, we've talked about plugins and how to install each of them. Just look for the respective plus. So right here, I'm next to personal plugins. If I want to install a plugin, I would do that here. If I have a skill that I want to install, I go to skills and then go to the plus here and upload here as well. You can look through the ideas. If you want to create your own skills, you can absolutely do that by simply chatting with Claude like we just did a minute ago when I started asking him to build me a custom dashboard. Now I would just continue to have this conversation. He's going to ask me some questions. I'm going to tell him what I want and how to connect to whatever outside sources that I need. I'm sure that will come up in there at some time as well. The other thing I'll mention is if yours looks a little bit different than mine, understand that these little buttons up here will expand or contract the taskbars on either side. Just depends on how you like working in your interface. Anytime it goes to actually run a skill or project, it's going to create its own progress taskbar. It hasn't created one here yet because it's not clear on the steps that need to be done. That's one of the ways it works. It's the primary method it works, is especially for things like the morning skill where it has to pull lots of pieces of information. It'll have a very long checklist. I need to go check websites. I need to go check stock tickers. I need to go check the weather report. I need to go check Neil's email updates. And it'll make a checkbox. And as it ticks off each one of those, you'll see it get checked off in the list all the way down until the final, which is deliver the final document report. At any rate, these can be expanded or collapsed depending on how you like to work. And these, again, are all just the recent things I've been working on with my Claude. So, again, big picture, you got to be on the desktop app. Almost everything that we're going to do is inside the Cowork tab. If you need to install things, you're going to go to Customize and Install or Edit or Update. When you're ready to actually do some work, you're going to go to New Task. Make sure you select the proper folder based on what you want to be doing because again, These folders will be set up with special memory files if you're using our Small Biz OS system. That helps Claude become smarter every time you use it. It's really important. It doesn't happen by default, which is why we kind of have given you that system to follow. All right, that's all I think I can share with you. Sorry that wasn't exactly the shortest ever, but hopefully you now have a pretty good understanding of how to work within the Claude app here. Otherwise, I appreciate your time and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.